Waiting for the lawnmower to go away from the window. Of course, now is when the neighbor wants to do his yard. I shouldn't complain because his always looks better than ours. Hi makers and bakers, I'm Tanya, welcome back to Global Bakes, and today I wanted to share with you a book review. I've been wanting to share some of my favorite cookbooks with you guys, both here on the YouTube channel as well as over on the blog, so make sure you go over and check out the blog because I've written up a bunch of stuff that may not make it into this video. I wanted to start my book reviews with what I knew was going to be one of my favorites before it even came out. The book that I'm reviewing today is Life is What You Bake It by Vallery Lomas. I do have a link for this book down in the description box below if you're interested in purchasing it. I highly recommend this book to both experienced and beginning bakers. For those of you that don't know, Vallery was the winner of the Great American Baking Show for season 3. If you've watched my channel before or if you've been on my blog, you probably know that I was on season 5. Fabulous experience being on the Great American Baking Show. I loved it and I would go back tomorrow if I could. But Vallery was on season 3, and season 3 unfortunately only got to air 2 episodes, and then this season was pulled from TV because of some allegations against one of the judges. So Vallery and the rest of the bakers were kind of collateral damage for the unfortunate events and circumstances, and I had auditioned for the Great American Baking Show for season 3, the same one that Vallery was on, and I didn't make it, and I was heartbroken. But it couldn't have been anything like what the bakers actually experienced. The people who, the bakers, the production company, all of the film crew, everybody that I got to know when I got to film season 5, I saw exactly how much they put into this. And I mean, it is their heart and soul. The people who make the show, for the bakers, it is a dream come true. It's surreal the whole time you're there. But then to have it air 2 episodes and then pulled off TV for something that was completely out of your control was just heartbreaking. And I remember seeing the notification when season 3 was pulled after 2 episodes, and I cried. I mean, even though I wasn't on the show and I thought I knew how they felt, there's no way I could have known how bad it was for them when all of their hard work would never be seen by anybody. And for Vallery, I hope you don't mind, the sun is coming and going and I'm using natural light for this video, so it might get darker and lighter in this video. So for Vallery as the winner, and to never really be shown on TV the way it was supposed to happen, for people to kind of, it felt like her win was just kind of glossed over. There was a Facebook announcement, but the thing about Vallery is no matter how bad that situation was, she didn't let it get her down. I remember at the time she was posting hashtag when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, or make lemon curd. That's what it was. I do remember. And she worked and she pushed and she tested recipes and she made connections and she talked to people and she networked, and she used a lot of what I think she probably learned in law school, because Vallery is a lawyer, all of those smarts and how to make the connections that she needed to make to get where she wanted to be. So she also, on Food Network, she does Vallery Bakes Your Questions, and she's been on the Today Show and all kinds of other shows. She's really making what she wanted to be happen. She didn't let that little, I don't want to call it a hiccup, let's see. So she's really making her dreams come true, and she's really followed through, and she has worked her butt off to get where she is. So that's why I knew this book was going to be one of my favorites, because she's so inspirational. But I had no idea. Like I said, I cried when I didn't make the show. I cried when their season was pulled. I cried when I saw that she won but would never get the attention that she deserved as the winner. But I had no idea I was going to cry when I read a cookbook. Who cries when they read a cookbook? I guess if you guys are as passionate about baking or about anything, if there's anything that you do that you're super passionate about, when you see somebody succeeding through adversity, it can make you cry. And I will say that even though I'm not a crier, for some reason, this particular topic, baking in the tent for me, brought a lot of tears for me. I cried a lot in the tent, which totally blew my mind because I'm not a crier. I usually cry behind closed doors, no one sees it. But I was just so passionate about doing well. I was so passionate about getting there. It was very hard to control my emotions. And then when I read all of Vallery's experiences, not only in the tent, but other experiences that she's had throughout life and all the different things that have kind of led her to where she is now, I cried. I'll just admit it. I cried when I read the book. I was at my son's baseball game reading this book and tears were coming out of my eyes. So one of the things I love about this book is how Vallery relates her life experiences to baking. She talks a lot about what she learned in law school and different types of law and how it equates to things that she's pushed through within the kitchen or in the tent or the whole situation with her show being pulled. And I love it. So Valerie's done a lot of travel. You can read the book and you can see all the different places that she's lived, where she's from. But she brings a lot of her traveling experiences into the book, and that's one thing as Global Bakes that I'm super passionate about. I love to see culture and the way it impacts food and the way it impacts people. And I think it's one of the best ways to get to know people is to get to know them through food, because people are so passionate about their food and sharing their grandma's recipes or, just the things that they grew up as a child, just things that they know of and think of as home. And I think food has the ability to bring that. And Vallery really brings that out. She talks a lot about it in this book. Vallery has done a fantastic job of adding, there's a QR code at the front where you can get links to videos and tips and tutorials that are done by Vallery in her kitchen. And I think that's such a great way to connect with your readers. Vallery also has stories that relate. Now, she doesn't go on and on. I know some people don't like to read blogs or even cookbooks that have a lot of storytelling in them because they just give me the recipe and let me make my stuff. So Vallery does a really good job of telling you what her inspiration was or where this particular recipe came from, or maybe even adds in a few tips and tricks to have a successful bake without going overboard. So all of the stories that Vallery tells in this book are so engaging, and it just really makes you feel like you've gotten to know her, got to know a lot about her background and what has inspired her, and also shows you what a trooper she is. I think the ability to adapt and adjust and overcome in adversity, it may sound dramatic, but in a baking situation or in the tent, that can be so important. I know it was my downfall, not being able to adapt, not being able to quickly think on my feet. I let myself get emotional and I let myself try to rush, and that was my downfall. And that's what cost me, and made me get eliminated. So I think we can all just learn so much from reading Vallery's stories and the inspiration behind everything that she does. On a recipe note, as far as the recipes in this book, Vallery writes recipes the way I want to write recipes. She gives enough detail that you know what you're looking for and you know what she's asking you to do without dumbing it down, if that makes sense. One thing that I've always kind of struggled with a little bit is if I put too much information in a recipe, sometimes it's a little tedious for somebody who's baked before and has a lot of experience. If I don't put enough, then I'm not guiding the people who don't have experience and need to know what to look for. So she just has a way of writing the recipes that she gives you enough information and she tells you what to look for, which is super helpful, I think, but she doesn't dumb it down, and she walks you through the whole process. And her recipes are just meticulously written, very, very well written. I don't have a single complaint about the book. I just love it. And the recipes that I've used have turned out perfectly. When I do test recipes from books, I do everything exactly as written in the book. So if they don't tell me to do a certain step, I don't do it, even if I know it needs to be done, because I'm going to do it based on how the recipe is written, just to see if they've written it correctly. And I have absolutely zero complaints about Vallery's recipes. So I chose 3 different recipes to make out of Vallery's book. I do plan to make more. I'm not going to stop with 3 because they're just so well written and they're top notch. I can't complain about any part of her recipes. First I started with the chocolate mint moon pies, and the reason I started with those is mostly because, well, number one, they just sounded incredible, and I love shortbread, and she uses a chocolate shortbread base, and there are some Mardi Gras influences there that she talks about, and I just love that influence of her background that comes through in her baking. So I also chose the mint chocolate moon pies because this week on the current season, I think it's season 12, series 12 of the Great British Baking Show, is they're in biscuit week. So I decided I would make those biscuits to kind of go along and be my bake along with GBBO. So one of the other recipes that I chose to make is her brioche. And I am going to tell you that when I auditioned for the show, when I auditioned for the Great American Baking Show, one of the things they asked me is, what is one bake that you've never perfected and that you want to? What is that one elusive bake, that one thing that you just haven't gotten the way you want it? And for me, that thing was brioche. My husband and I used to live in Mississippi. We actually had, our daughter was born there. We were there he was there for 3 years. I think I was there for 2 when we were military. So it was my first time living in the South. And like I've said, I love to connect with people through food. And one of my favorite things was going to buy fresh brioche. And you just can't get it any better than when you're down in that area. But the fresh brioche that we got, oh, it was just incredible. It was like being in France. So I tried Vallery's recipe, and it is top notch. It is absolutely, it's the brioche recipe that I've been looking for. Let me put it that way. So the brioche was definitely hands down one of my favorite recipes in this book, and one of the first ones that I picked out. The third recipe that I decided to try from Vallery's book is her banoffee pie. Now, if you've been on my website, you know I have a recipe for banoffee. I've talked about banoffee a lot before. It is one of my very favorite things to make because my family loves it so much. And every time I've had anyone over, that's just one of those things. It's easy to put together, but it just impresses people. So, and actually, if you go back and you watch episode 1 of season 5, you'll see me baking in the kitchen with 3 kids. Those are my nieces and nephews, and they were making banoffee tartlets. So it's just one of those recipes that I thought I would make, as well as the fact that if I made it to the final round on Great American Baking Show season 5, one of my 3 miniature desserts was going to be banoffee mini pies. Obviously, I didn't make it that far, but I wanted to try Vallery's version of banoffee. She said she'd never heard of it before. I was lucky enough to live in Scotland, so I had heard of it. I had eaten it before, but I was just so excited to see her version. I wanted to try that since it was one of the things I thought I could make in the tent for the final. Unfortunately, just didn't get that far. So I did talk with Vallery and got her permission to read a certain passage to you, and this is the one that kind of made me start tearing up a little bit at first at my son's baseball game. I'm gonna look for it. Okay, so this is the section on pie. I also like the way Vallery's broken this down. It's she has a section on cookies and pies and cakes and things like that. So I like it. It just kind of makes it easy. It's easy for me to think, where do I need to go in the book to find it? This is the first page of pie, and again, I am reading this with Vallery's permission and printing it on the blog with Vallery's permission. But this is what got me right here. If pie crust were a person, I'd want to be her. Relax and chill is her mantra, but she doesn't shrink away when things heat up. She'd teach me the importance of rest and show me that sometimes you've got to take care of yourself so you're ready when times get tough. In fact, she's made for the heat. That's because some of the hottest ovens we find ourselves in are just what we need to create the steam that's necessary to be our best layered selves. And it's okay when things don't go as planned. You can always patch the ripped dough or a broken heart or a shattered dream back together. See? And it got me again. Was not going to do that in this video, but I did. I think it just shows so much about Vallery and so much about the people who want to do something but really have to push themselves through, not knowing if they have the skills. I know that as a baker, I sometimes have imposter syndrome. Even when I walked in the tent, I had imposter syndrome because I thought all of these people are better than me. All of these people know so much more. But I did really well, and I was really proud of my performance. And I'm really proud of everyone who takes a chance, even if they don't win, even if they don't get the grand prize. I think just getting out there and doing it and pushing through adversity is one of those lessons that we all need to learn from Vallery. So that's one of the reasons that I want to recommend that you buy this book. I absolutely adore it. And it's already got a few bent pages because I've used it several times, but it will have a lot more. This is going to be one of those books that has, the splattered butter and little wipes of buttercream and things like that on it. So I highly recommend Life is What You Bake It by Vallery Lomas. Hi, my name is Tanya. Thank you so much for watching Global Bakes videos. I appreciate your time so much. And if you could do me a favor and click that little thumbs up button down there just to show me that you like this content and also show YouTube that you like this content, you would help me grow so much. That's how YouTube knows when to recommend my videos to other people. So like if you can, and if you like this content, and subscribe if you'd like to. I have a goal to hit 1,000 subscribers before January 1st of 2022. So if you want to help me reach my goal, subscribe. And you could, if you want to help me out even more, share this on your social media channels and try to get your friends to subscribe as well. Thank you so much. Bye.